الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على سيدنا ونبينا مولانا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا مولانا محمد وأصحابه وبارك وسلم صلوا عليه صلاة وسلام عليك يا سيدي يا سندي يا سندي وسندي يا سيدي يا سندي يا حبيبي يا طبيبي يا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آلك وأصحابك رحمة للعالمين. نحمده ونصلي ونسلم على رسوله الكريم. أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إنما أموالكم وأولادكم فتنة والله عنده أجر عظيم. صدق الله مولانا العظيم وبلغنا رسوله النبي الأمين المكين الكريم ونحن على ذلك من الشاهدين والشاكرين والحمد لله رب العالمين. خوف اعظم بمن بیسر و ساما مدد قبلہ دی مدد کعبہ ایما مدد قادری من عرائی یا خوف اعظم زنم دمز شیخ احمد رضا خان قطب عالم زنم سیدی یا مرشدی شاہ مصطفیٰ خان زندہ باد مسلک سرکار اعلیٰ حضرت زندہ باد یا الہی مسلک احمد رضا خان زندہ باد حفظ ناموں سے رسالت کا جو ذمہ دار ہے سیدی یا مرشدی شاہ مصطفیٰ خان زندہ باد حامل فیض رضا مصطفیٰ امداد کن صلی اللہ علیہ النبی الأمی وآلہ صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم. صلاۃ و سلام علیک یا سیدی یا سندی یا حبیبی یا طبیبی یا رسول اللہ صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم وعلی آلک واصحابک یا رحمۃ للعالمین. All praise is due to Almighty Allah. Durood and salams upon the most perfect, exalted and glorified of Allah's creation, Sayyiduna wa Mawlana Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. His blessings and salutations upon the Anbiya Ikram, Ahl Bayt Athhar, Sahaba Ikram, Khalifa Rashidin, Tabain, Tabi Tabain, Aimma Mujtahideen, Awliya Kamilin, and all those who follow the path until the last day. We thank Almighty Allah for His infinite mercy and through the wasilah of Sayyidina Mawlana Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam for blessing us with the opportunity to congregate for Salat al-Jum'ah and to prostrate in His most exalted court. Before continuing, let us direct our hearts and our minds and our thoughts towards the holy and the sanctified court of the beloved Rasul sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam, and in doing so let us collectively recite the Sharif. Allahumma salli ala sayyidina wa nabiyyina Muhammadin wa ala sayyidina Muhammadin hafiz al-abdani wa shifai wa tibbil qulubi wa dawaiha wa nuri al-absari wa diyaiha wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam daiman abadan sarmadan. Allah Almighty is saying in the Holy Quran, إِنَّمَا أَمْوَالُكُمْ وَأَوْلَادُكُمْ فِتْنَةٌ إِنَّمَا أَمْوَالُكُمْ وَأَوْلَادُكُمْ فِتْنَةٌ وَاللَّهُ عِنْدَهُ أَجْرٌ عَظِيمٌ. Allah is saying very clearly in the Holy Quran کہ تمہارے مال اور تمہارے بچے جانچ ہی ہے، فتنہ. تمہارے مال اور تمہارے بچے جانچ ہی ہیں اور اللہ کے پاس بڑا ثواب ہے. Allah is saying in the Holy Quran in Surah Taghabun, which is the 64th surah of the Holy Quran, verse number 15, Almighty Allah is saying, your wealth and your children are only a test. Your wealth and your children are only a test. And Allah says, and by Allah is the grand reward. Allahu indahu ajrun azim. Okay? Allah is saying very, very clearly in the Holy Quran, Rabbi Kainat is saying, Innama amwalukum wa awladukum fitna. Innama amwalukum wa awladukum fitna. In other words, Allah is saying in the Holy Quran that indeed your wealth and your children, in the sense, fitna means test. They are a test. They are only a test for you. Wallahu ajrun indahu ajrun azim. That indeed by Allah is the grand reward. Now, if we look at what Almighty Allah is saying in the Holy Quran, And each of us looks at our lives today. Look at our society. Look at our communities. Which is the biggest test for a man? Which are the two things that are the biggest test for a man today? His wealth and his children. Allah is saying very clearly in the Holy Quran, Allah is reminding us, إِنَّمَا أَمْوَالُكُمْ وَأَوْلَادُكُمْ فِتْنَةٌ. This is the greatest and the most difficult test today for people. Is their wealth and their awlad. Because it becomes very difficult to balance both righteously. And when you look at what the Holy Quran is saying, what Allah is telling us, if we look at even this verse of the Holy Quran, and I'm going to be brief on that discussion. If we look at what the Quran has said, إِنَّمَا أَمْوَالُكُمْ أَوْلَادُكُمْ فِتْنَةٌ. Indeed, your children, your wealth and your children are only a test from Allah. Concerning this, Hazrat Sadrul Afadil Allama Sayyid Naeemuddin Muradabadi radiallahu anhu, the personality who wrote the Khazain ul-Irfan, which is the tafsir of Kanzul Iman, tafsir of the Holy Quran. In that commentary he says that sometimes for a man, his wealth and his children become the cause of strife. Sometimes for a man, his wealth and his children become a means of his strife. Because of them he falls into fitna. Because of him he falls into difficulties. Because of them he falls into difficulties. And one other reason he says is that how they become a test for you? He says because they keep you so busy. They keep you so busy that you forget your responsibility in the court of Allah. Some people have said, this is human nature, that Allah is saying, إِنَّمَا أَمْوَالُكُمْ أَوْلَادُكُمْ فِتْنَةٌ. Allah is saying that indeed your children, your wealth and your children are a test for you. وَاللَّهُ إِنْدَهُ أَجْرٌ عَظِيمٌ. And the grand reward is by Allah. So Sadrul Afadil Allama Naeemuddin Muradabadi radiallahu anhu is telling us about this ayat of the Holy Quran in Surah Taghabun. Allah is telling us, and Hazrat Sadrul Afadil is explaining what this means. He's saying it means that sometimes our wealth and our children become a means of hindrance for us from the remembrance of Allah, because we're so lost in them and trying to sort that out, we forget that one day we are to die and leave this dunya. We forget. Now sometimes a person feels that he has too little wealth, and because of having less he is not able to fulfill his responsibilities. So what happens? He tries to earn more and do everything else, but so drowned in it that what he does, it becomes an obstacle for him from the way of Allah. And sometimes a person has so much that he forgets that he needs to go on the musalla and make shukr to his Rabb. Sometimes, look at our lives today, we spend our lives on our children. And I want to ask you and myself first, and then you at this point and at this juncture. We all claim to love our children. No parent will say they don't love their child. But I want to ask myself and you a question. Do we really love our children? Do we really love our children? Are we successful in this test? This test of wealth and awlad that Allah has given us, are we successful in it? It is a discussion that we don't want to talk about. The question is, yes, everybody says, I love, but I say, do you really love? If we loved our children, then we will not let our children be hindrances and obstacles for us in the way of Almighty Allah. What we would do, we would make them a means for us to become closer in the court of Almighty Allah. But the Quran is saying that for man, his children and his wealth, what does it become? It becomes a test, a very powerful test upon that person. And this is the thing that takes a person away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah is saying in the Holy Quran, after telling us that they are tests, what Allah is telling us? Wallahu indahu ajrun azim. That the grand reward is by Allah. So Allah is first telling you that your wealth and your children are a test. Your wealth and your children are a test. And thereafter, He is telling you that the grand reward is with Allah. So the Mufassirin are saying that you have to understand that your wealth and your children are a test. And if you fail in this test, then let it not be so that you lose that grand reward. Let it not be so that you lose that grand reward in the court of Almighty Allah. Now look at our lives today. And last week I told you, indeed Qiyamah is going to come. Allah says in the Quran. Right? One of the huge signs of Qiyamah, one of the signs of Qiyamah is that children will become rude and obscene. What is one of the signs of Qiyamah? Children will become rude and obscene, bachche bigar jaye. They will not care how they speak to their elders. They will not care how to respect their elders, because it is in the hadith that this is a sign of Qiyamah. That they will become rude and obscene. You tell them something, they respond with anger. Happens, doesn't happen? Now it is a sign of Qiyamah. And the Quran is telling us before that these children and this wealth are a test for you. Be careful that we do not lose ourselves to such an extent in our financial affairs that we forget that Allah is a Razzaq. Your rizq, how much you get, is from Allah. You have to make the effort. But it is by Allah's command, because if you stand the whole day at your shop and you say, walk inside, walk inside, walk inside, 100 will walk in, but only that one will buy whom Allah wills. That's all the risk you're going to get. So why do people want to do haram to earn risk? Why do you want to contradict the command of Allah and His Rasul to earn the dunya, when this wealth is a test for us? Today, then Allah says your wealth is a test for you. He says your awlad are a test for us. Now look at as parents, we should ask ourselves, and let's be honest. How many parents are there in the masjid, leave everywhere else, sitting here, that can proudly say that my children never go against what I say? My children, I have never seen my son or my daughter argue with his mother. It's never happened that I tell my children to do this which is in accordance with the deen, and I say, read salah, but my child is on social media. How many of us can proudly say this? Those of us that can, subhanallah. Subhanallah. But look at our community. What is happening to the children? And this is why I ask, do we really love our children? We give our children everything of the dunya. How much of deen do we give your children? How much of deen do we give your children? Nobody is saying do not give them professional success example. Don't make them a doctor and don't make them. But first is deen. If that child doesn't have deen, they will have all the wealth in the world and they will be destroyed in the akhirah. And the Quran is telling you that these children are a test. That wealth and these children are a test. How many of us can say with confidence that my children will be my means in my akhirat when I die? How many of us can say? These are questions that we need to ask ourselves. And if we answer in the negative, then the question is again, do we really love our children? Are we giving them that which will benefit them? Are we giving them that which is of benefit for them in this dunya and the akhirah? Half the children today don't know how to respect their parents. They don't know the adab of the elders. Half of them today, let me tell you, they don't even know the graves of the deceased members of their family. Who's to blame? The child? I'm asking you a question. Who's to blame? The child? You and I. You and I as parents to blame. If you don't take your child to the qabristan, how will the child know where the qabr of his dada, nana, nani, chacha, mamu is? If we don't take them to pick up their hands, how will they know? We want those children to benefit us in the hereafter. We all say this, that I'm doing everything for the future of my child. We spend our entire lives working for our children. Yes, we should. But all that we work for is to give them dunya. What about the akhirat? We all go on saying that I want to do this for the future of my child. Where is the future of your child? Your future of your child is his qabr. The future of your child is his qabr. What have you done that if my child falls dead today and he enters the qabr, then he will get certain benefits? We have made sure he has a house, we have made sure we have left a bank account, we have made sure we have left investments. But what about if your child drops dead today, my child? What have we done that they will receive some fayda in the qabr when they go? So do we really love our children? You know, in the old days, our fathers and our forefathers, and you look at even before that, what did they do with their children? You must remember, in those days they ate half roti, half bread. Go and look at how your mothers and fathers worked hard for you. Today we forget. You forget that father who would carry huge bags and sold so that he can give you a meal on your table. We forget those mothers who made effort so that they could give us what we have. But still we think that we are superior because we have an education. Because we know this, we know that. Let me tell you, they knew better than you and I. They knew better than you and I. Today you are standing up and saying Mustafa Jani Rahmat Pelako Salam, it is because of their efforts. Today you are making Ghaus Pak's niyaz, it is because of their efforts. Today you are saying Ya Khaja, it is because of their efforts. If your parents did not help, if they were not a means, then nothing would have happened for you. But the biggest problem that we have today is that the parents of today, unfortunately, time does not permit to go too deep and I'm going to take some time to go. The big problem that we have is that as parents today, we want to take our children to the show. We want to take them to see this film star. We want to take them to meet this soccer player. We want to take them to this function where the kuffar are there. But you don't want to take them in the khidmat of the mashayikh and the ulama when they are here. Happening or not happening? And we still say, I love my child. What love? This thing about keeping your children in the company of the pious from young, even if Allah forbid they go astray sometime in their life, because of that which you gave them, that grassroots training, Allah will guide them back again. Allah will guide them back again. Your job is to make the effort. Your job is to make the effort. Look, Hazrat Sayyiduna Junaid Baghdadi radiallahu anhu. Imam al-Taifa, Hazrat Sayyiduna Imam Junaid Baghdadi radiallahu ta'ala anhu, 7 years old. How many years old?
7 years.
Imam Junaid Baghdadi, 7 years old, 7 saal ki. 7 years old. He goes to Haram Sharif, Haramain Tayyibain. In whose company he goes? In the company of Hazrat Saruddin Sari Sakti radiallahu ta'ala. His Murshid Kamil, not only his Murshid, he's also his Mamu. Okay, he was the nephew of Saruddin Sari Sakti. Goes with him to Haramain Sharifain. And when they get there, they sit in a majlis. When they get there, they sit in a majlis. When they went to the haram, they went to the majlis of whom? Of the true ulama. Saruddin Sari Sakti, big imam like that. Today ask yourself the question, when you go to the haram, what are you doing? When you go for Umrah, what do you go there for? When you go to Madinah Sharif, how many are sitting in their rooms in front of the television set? When you walk in front of the Rawza Mubarak, you are busy taking a selfie. Whereas your heart should be humbled in the court of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Think about it. Hazrat Sayyidina Saruddin Sari Sakti radiallahu anhu takes the 7-year-old Junaid Baghdadi radiallahu anhu. And they come to the haram, the holy haram. And they sit in a majlis. You know who is in that majlis? 400 ulama and mashayikh. 400 ulama and mashayikh are seated there. And the ulama are discussing a topic. What are they talking about? Shukr. What is the topic of discussion? Shukr, gratefulness to Allah. As a servant, being grateful to Allah. This is what 400 scholars of that time, in the zamana of Saruddin Sari Sakti radiallahu anhu, are talking about. They are talking about shukr. about being grateful to Allah. And each of them gave their view of what they thought what is shukr, their interpretation of shukr. All the 400 ulama amongst them, each was giving their view. And as they completed giving their views, Hazrat Sayyidina Sarri Sakati radiallahu anhu looks at the 7-year-old Junaid al-Baghdadi. He looks at the 7-year-old Junaid al-Baghdadi and he says to him, "Oh Junaid, you also give your view." 400 ulama and mashayikh. 400 ulama and mashayikh. A 7-year-old. What is it teaching us? I'll tell you just. 400 ulama and mashayikh in the haram, all giving their views on shukr. And Hazrat Junaid al-Baghdadi is a 7-year-old and Shaykh Hazrat Sayyidina Sarri Sakti radiallahu saying, "Junaid, you give your view." Hazrat Junaid al-Baghdadi hears the question from his Shaykh in the presence of 400 ulama, 7 years old. What will he say? He puts his head down. He lowers his head. Not like today with pride, they told me to talk. No, Junaid al-Baghdadi puts his head down. He lowers his head and then he raises his head humbly and he says, "Shukr is that you should not be disobedient to Allah. Shukr is that you should not be disobedient to Allah by way of those ni'mats which He gave you." Allah. Allah. This is a discussion by itself if I have to continue. He said, "Shukr is that you should not be disobedient to Allah by way of the ni'mats, of the bounties that He gave you." In other words, if Allah gave you wealth, do not disobey Allah through that wealth. If Allah gave you awlad, do not disobey Allah through that awlad. If Allah gave you power, do not disobey Allah through that power, because when Allah gave it to you, He gave it to you as a ni'mah. And shukr is that when you do not use that which Allah gave you to disobey Allah. He said that is shukr. And He said you should not use them as a means of disobedience and as a means of causing fitna, as a means of causing strife, of causing difficulty. All the ulama, 400 ulama and mashayikh, when they heard this from 7-year-old Junaid al-Baghdadi radiallahu anhu, they said, "Oh coolness of our eyes, oh coolness of our eyes, whatever you have said is the truth, your words are the truth." And none could have given amongst us a better explanation. Hazrat Sarri Sakti radiallahu anhu, smiling, he looked at Hazrat Junaid al-Baghdadi radiallahu ta'ala anhu, and he says, "Oh my beloved son," in other words it was his nephew and it was his murid also. So he said, "Oh my beloved son, where did you learn such exemplary wisdom? Where did you learn such exemplary wisdom?" He said, "Oh Sarri Sakti radiallahu anhu, this is through the blessing of being in your blessed company. This is through the blessing of being in your blessed company." What is it telling us? It's telling us that where we take our children, who we attach them to, is what the repercussions are. It's what the results are. So if we keep our children with the pious, with the ulama and the true mashayikh, then we will find our children will learn the proper tariqah. They will learn to perform salah. They will learn the words of piety. But if we keep them distant and keep them close to the kuffar, then what will happen? The children will go astray. And these children are what? إِنَّمَا أَمْوَالُكُمْ وَأَوْلَادُكُمْ فِتْنَةٌ. These children are a test for us. Today, and I'm ending with this today, it's a long discussion as I said, but I want to end with this. We say we love our children. Again, I'm coming back to the question, do you really love them? How many of us look around you, listen to people talking? I ask people sometimes, "Why did you keep your child's name this? I never heard this name before." Smiling, "One, a football player." Football. "Why you keep this child? What a bowler. What a cricketer." Ye hal. And then we want to see that boy must become a pious boy. Naming our children and our daughters after film stars. Do you think that the name will not make any asar on them? Do you think it will not make any asar on them? What did the beloved Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam say? Hazrat Sayyidina Imam Mufassirin, Hazrat Abdullah ibn Abbas, radiallahu ta'ala anhuma says that Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, it is the duty upon every father to keep a good name for his child. It is the farz upon every father to keep a good name for his child and to teach his child good manners. And there's another hadith from Hazrat Sayyidina Abu Darda. Hazrat Sayyidina Abu Darda radiallahu anhu, the beloved Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, on the day of Qiyamah you will be called by your names and the names of your fathers, so keep good names. You will be called by these names on the day of Qiyamah. Everybody wants to I want to look for, hey, I got a son. People say, I got a son. I just want to look for some extraordinary name. Which better name is there than Muhammad? Which better name is there than Muhammad? Say, Maulana, we've got one Muhammad in the house already. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, what difference is there if you have one Muhammad or two Muhammads or three Muhammads in your house? What harm is there to you? The beloved Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, that person who has three sons and did not name even one of them Muhammad, he's an ignorant man. It's an ignorant man, it's being miserly. But we do not want to name our children Muhammad, except for those that do. We want to look for the names of those who are dunyadar. So that is what the effect will be on them. The beloved Nabi, let me just tell you about naming your children. Just one hadith in Mubarakah. Subhanallah. Hazrat Sayyidina Abu Umama radiallahu anhu reported that the beloved Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, Hazrat Abu Umama radiallahu anhu reported that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, if a son is born to a person and he names him Muhammad because of my love. If a son is born to a person and he names him Muhammad because of my love and to attain the barakat of my name. If a son is born to a person and he names him Muhammad because of my love and because of attaining the blessings of my name, then both him and his son are in Jannah. Then both him and his son are in Jannah. The whole discussion, today's discussion, my aim and objective for this, and I'm going to close this discussion up with this. The maqsad of my discussion today, and the question that I've asked many times in between, do we really love our children? Is because it is the end of the year. It is the end of the school year. And soon there will be the fitna of the Deb's ball and the matric bash and whatever else that comes with it. And Muslim parents spend thousands of rands to buy their daughters a dress to go for the ball, to buy their son a tuxedo. Why? It's the last time, Maulana, let them enjoy. Spending thousands of rands to plunge your children into fitna. Sharam nahi aati? Do you have no shame? 5,000 to put my daughter on a dance floor and open the doors of zina. How much did you spend in your life in the house of Allah? How many times did you come and put one washer that has broken in the masjid tap? But we are prepared to put our children in this fitna. I want to make my child happy. I love my child. This is not love. This is not love. Love is when your child says, I want to go to this, you sit them down and say, Beta, do you know how much of guna is in this? Do you know how much of the narazgi of Allah you will attain? What face will you show to Rasul Pak sallallahu alaihi wasallam on the day of Qiyamah? If we really love our children, it is time to put a stop to all of this. If anyone in this masjid is going to allow your child towards this guna, you are double punishable. Because I have now told you. I have now told you. And if Allah asks me on the day of Qiyamah, I will say, I told you. I will say, I told you. وَمَا عَلَيْنَا إِلَّا الْبَلَاغُ الْمُبِينُ. And upon us it is only to pass the clear message. Upon us it is to pass the message. It is your responsibility. Take responsibility of your awlad. Otherwise, this awlad and this wealth that both you spending, you're not only spending your awlad when you send them for your wealth, you're spending your awlad. You're wiping them, you're destroying them, you are ruining them. This is that part of the year we have to warn. And if we're not going to learn, then yaad rakhna, remember, that is going to come. Death is going to come. And when you enter the grave, the angels of death will come. And when they come tearing the cover with their teeth that reach the zameen, then it is worse than any earthquake that the earth has ever seen. Samajh rahe? If you are going to do all of this, then don't expect an easy time there. But if you hold firmly to the way of the pious servants, if you hold to the love of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and you protect your children from this, and when you fill the hearts of your children with the love of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then lahad mein ishq rukhe shah kadar leke chale, andheri raat suni thi chirag leke chale. Ala Hazrat Adimul Barakat says, when you enter your grave at that time, you will enter with the love of Rasul Pak, you will brighten your grave. But if you want that, tere ghulamu ka naqsh qadam hai rahe hoga. You have to follow the path of the pious. Wo kya bahag sake jo ye suha. So it's very important for us to understand that if we want to make this claim that we love our children, then it must be a truthful claim. We all have weaknesses, but why should we allow shaitan to plunge our children into this? Why should we allow the West to dominate our Islamic homes? Why do we allow it? And the only reason we allow this is because we have become slaves of this dunya. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from the fitna of this dunya. May Allah protect us from the difficulty of the hereafter. Allah keep us with iman. Let us leave this world with iman. Those that are in our community, Allah grant them shifa kamil sehta ajil. Those that are passed away in Ahlul Sunnah, Allah exalt them in Jannat al-Na'im. Those that are going through any difficulty and calamity, Allah remove them from their difficulties and from their calamities. And we make dua that Almighty Allah keeps us in the shade of His mercy and blesses us to live with iman, and when the time comes to leave this world, may we die with iman. I also request you to make dua for my beloved father, whose 2 years was just a few days ago. Allah Ta'ala exalt him in Jannat al-Firdaus and make his maghfirat and all the marhumin Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Allah Ta'ala iman ki sabr ke iman ki sabr hai ummah in bilad assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Also a reminder that in the monthly Nuri Mehfil and also Huzur Hujjatul Islam radiallahu anhu of my father as well, inshallah, and it will be on Sunday 3 p.m. 28 Clayton Road, men only. Sunday 3 p.m. Clayton Road, inshallah, that is this Sunday 3 p.m. 28 Clayton Road, also Islam and the Isra Swab and also the monthly Nuri Mehfil.
Illallah, la ilaha 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 illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Illallahu, illallah, illallahu, illallah, illallahu, illallah, illallahu, illallah, illallahu, illallah, illallahu, illallah, la ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Allah, 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 la ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Ya Hayyu ya Qayyum, 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 la ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Ya Shaykh شيئا إلا رضاه عنه